Dear Venerable Sisters, Dhamma friends, today is the second day of our meditation retreat in Perth, January 22nd, and it's a time for the Dhamma talk. May everyone settle down for the talk and give the concert with 3 times sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Irottappe bhikkhave asati. Irottappa vipannassa. Hatupa nisang hoti indriya sangvaroti. Dear Venerable Sisters, Dhamma friends, today we took another quotation from the same sutta, same discourse known as Satisampajanna Sutta, or mindfulness and the clear comprehension, and wish to continue the presentation as a furtherance of the yesterday's talk. And today, if I am to try a direct translation of the Pali quotation, it says, whenever someone is, or monks, when there is no mortal shame or mortal fear, mortal dread, and for not having that moral shame and moral fear, you are lacking the proximate cause for restraint of your sense faculties. As if you do not have any sense of moral shame and moral fear, you are not qualified, or you cannot expect your senses to be restrained. Even though you try, you have wish. So they are chain reactions. So yesterday, the whole hour, we tried to understand the proximate factors or conducive conditions for this valuable moral shame and moral fear is nothing but the mindfulness and the clear comprehension. So when and where someone take this kind of a retreat full time, and while practicing, how much time will it take for someone to understand, due to this practice, together with clear comprehension, there's a kind of a sensitivity, there's a kind of a literacy developing towards emotions. It's called emotional literacy or social literacy. When and where someone go to a solitude place and practicing, it appears like a very selfish thing. I am trying my best to be mindful and try to be comprehensive in action or clear comprehension. But here the Buddha explained, even though you are practicing as an individual in a single place or solitude place, there's a connection with the society or social intelligence and emotional intelligence. So therefore there's a notion, even if one single person is practicing on the earth, that particular person is developing kind of healthy vibrations so that he meditate for the rest of the humanity, rest of the population. He develop kind of a connection with the rest of the humanity. But the thing is, even though it is a fact, even though it's a verifiable fact, how long you must practice, you to understand my practice is not only for my liberation and enlightenment, but to calm down or make the world peaceful, not global warming, not for global pollution, environmental pollution, not for only my purification of being, but it's a purification of other beings also. So that happens because when and where you become mindful, when and where you become comprehensive, with the clear comprehension, that you can understand why other people, why they are doing mistakes. Why some people are not doing mistakes. Why I am propelled to do some mistakes. How come that I am doing away with mistakes? Earlier you think you are responsible, but when and where you become Satisampajanna, that means mindful as clear comprehension, you see they are reciprocal action, or it's a cause and effect relationship. As far as you think from egotistic thinking, very difficult for you to understand the broad picture. That is why we are just listening and keep that in our mind while practicing. It is not the selfish thing. When you keep on practicing, we are relating, we are developing kind of a literacy, emotional intelligence or social intelligence. But the problem is how long, how much time will it take you to understand your own practice. So the furthest, the maximum or the best example is the Buddha. For unknown time since he started as a Buddha to be, keep on practicing, and rising of the Buddha is a blessing to humankind. Sukho buddhanam uppado. So you are also doing the same task in a retail basis. When and where you practice, when and you become mindful, when and where you be clearly comprehensive about what you are doing, whether you know it or not, whether you are verifying it under your very nose or not, the momentum gathers. Ultimately you develop kind of a sensitivity, kind of a sympathy and empathy towards other people, because you understand exactly we all share the same mind. Though we are identify ourselves as the male, female, and this and that identities, but humanity-wise, we are sharing the same mind. The other people may not be meditating, they may not be appreciating these values, never mind. When and where are you practicing? So, you do most essential part to the whole humanity, the whole earth. And meanwhile, you also get your own enlightenment and the other benefits Buddha enumerated in the Satipatthana Sutta, starting from your purification. So that purification one can understand rather than the big picture, because that may be the main hope, main object you keep in front of you, and therefore you can understand by improving the moral restraint, by improving the concentration restraint and the wisdom restraint. But to understand each and every thought moment, you are serving to the humanity, you are serving to the Mother Earth to cool it down and to do away with pollution. Everyone may join us to practice, because technology can't stop it. Technology only can aggravate it. Technology cannot think about emotional literacy. It is separating people and uneven distribution of the economy and fighting, and everything is due to technology. But when and where you mindful and we are clearly comprehends, you can see, let the people do it do it in this way, but how much I can be mindful. And while practicing, sooner or later, you may understand, more and more you practice, the earliest most sign is you develop moral shame and moral fear. So that I try to explain in the very technical way or in a microwave way, when and where you assign your primary object, when and where you try to be with your bodily posture. To qualify a little further, I would say, when you are sitting, you know you are sitting, and on top of that understanding of very sitting, you keep the breath maybe as your primary object. Or you may keep your rising and falling of your abdomen as your primary object. Or your touching point as the primary object. And you try to keep the track with that assigned primary object. Of course, it is another version of your bodily posture. When you are walking, you keep the left leg and the right leg as your primary object. Meanwhile, you know you are not sitting. You know you are walking. And in the lying down posture, you may be taking breath or touching point of your body. Meanwhile, you try to understand, I am not sitting, I am not walking, I am not standing, I am lying down. So likewise, any posture, you can take it. So with that basic understanding, when you are sitting, for example, where you have the most intensive, most sophisticated way of starting mindfulness. While it's happening, imagine mind wanders off without prior notice. Maybe due to a sound, maybe due to a pain, or maybe due to daydreaming and fantasizing. And how much time will it take you to understand, I am now not mindful? That you know your assigned object, and you have been in that, for example, in-breath and out-breath, and after a while, without prior notice, mind jump out, wandering, daydreaming, fantasizing, fabricating, storytelling. And when and where you comes to know, I am not mindful, I am not at home, I am not on the track. That very understanding is indicator whether you have the clear comprehension or not. If you have no clear comprehension, if you have not heard about this way of the mind works, you get regret. You feel sorry. My mind went off. Without any prior notice, it is not obedient, and therefore soon the mind goes, soon you comes to know that I am not mindful. Immediate reaction is irritation, regret. So, if you are developing clear comprehension, and if you try to understand how the mind is working, the main thing is, even though you comes to know that I am not mindful on the spot, red-handed, main thing is not to worry. Why? Because again, you can come back to your primary object, it is always waiting. You can come back to the breath, you can come back to the rising and falling, you can come back to the sitting posture. If you get upset, if you regret, and if you are worrying, you may fail to come back to the primary object, because you may be mindful, but you have no clear comprehension. So therefore, not to miss the bus, what you have to do is, yes, my mind is gone out due to the thinking, pain, sounds. Never mind how often I can come back to the primary object. This coming back process we call resilience. When and where you met up with adverse situation, how quickly you can come back at home. So this is a measuring yardstick of your meditative life. If it takes longer time, you are still a amateur yogi or newcomer. Soon you comes to know that I am not mindful, I am wandering, daydreaming, and if you can come back to the primary object, wonderful thing, an amazing thing or unexpected thing is, when you come back mindful, the primary object is very calm and quiet. It's not distracted. If you are coming with the worried mind, if you are coming with the regretting mind, you may fail to understand, even it is going out and coming back, whether the primary object is calmed down or it is undisturbed, this kind of a very subtle but very important kind of observation, even the young children, they can report. You have to really, really tell them, when you are sitting, how many breaths you can understand. This is sometimes 5 to 6 breaths. Then what happened? I don't know. It's going out. Going out of what? I don't know. Sometimes maybe a thought. Knowing how quickly you can come back, how quickly you can bring it back to the breath. I'll try next time. So they really try. And they say, when it come back, breath is so calm. I thought breath is also disturbed because of the wandering mind and daydreaming and fantasizing. There the problem is, main thing is not to worry, knowing unmindfulness and you bring it back. I give an example that when we are starting this retreat in the Jhana Grove, one has to indicate in an unlikely situation, if the fire going to break, where is the assembly ground? It's a must. It's a regulation in Australia. So while we are meditating, imagine emergency fire break happens. So you have to just run to the assembly ground and don't worry about the rest. You have to go there. So you can't teach how to go to the assembly ground once the fire started. It has to be instructed beforehand. We give that instruction as a familiarization. So whenever such a mishap happens, the main thing is to go to the assembly ground. I don't know whether Ramani gave that information in the first day evening, assembly ground. So I don't know. I was not there in the first meeting, but I saw in the dining hall, other side, there's a board, the fire. This is the assembly ground. So our assembly ground is our primary object. When the mind goes out, you must know the way back to assembly ground. Wandering mind is a fire, a mishap. So whenever it happens, don't panic. Don't run up and down to call other people to go there. No, mind your own business. Go to the assembly ground. So I call the assembly ground one epithet, other one is, this is a pivotal point. Whenever anything goes wrong, please go back to your primary object. That is your pivotal point or benchmark. So if you do not know such a thing in your life, it's a waste of life. So you are just whiling away your life. When anything happens, you don't know your safe land. If you do not know your assembly ground, if you do not know your pivotal points or benchmark, anyone can do any harm to you. You have no any blessings of the Buddha. You have no any blessings of the Dhamma. No blessing from Sangha. No blessing of your restraint, moral restraint. So when we are practicing, let any mishap happen because it is beyond control. You can't control this wildfire, bushfire. But whenever such a thing happens, you must have your understanding, when such a thing happens, what to do. So that is not mindfulness, it is further, far away, beyond, furtherance on the mindfulness, whenever mishap happens, what to do. So you know how to maintain mindfulness in your posture as far as mindfulness is distracted, not distracted. You know left leg, left leg, right leg, like in walking. Or in breath, out breath, in breath, out breath, like sitting. Or maybe rising, falling. But whenever mishap or unlikely thing happens, you know everything gone. You are maybe daydreaming, fantasizing with the sounds and imagination or visual objects. You may be distracted, deranged or eccentric. How quickly you can come back. Don't worry about wandering. Don't worry about taking you for a ride. If you are worrying, I simply say you don't have comprehension. You know mindfulness, but you don't have clear comprehension. If you are developing clear comprehension, you let the mind to wander over because simply it is not under your control, not governable. But the governable thing, restraint, you have to do is, when you know, on the spot, red-handed, I am no more at my home situation, at home situation, please bring it back. So when such a thing happen, what will happen if you keep on practice like that? Your time to understand from mindfulness to unmindfulness will be shortened. At the beginning it will take long time you to understand how far I have taken for a ride with the distraction. But when you keep on practicing clear comprehension with the mindfulness, still your mind is wandering. But it won't take much time. Immediately you can understand, and then earlier the better, easily you can come back to primary object. The Buddha gave a very nice example in separate sutta. It's called Sakunagi Sutta. There was a very tiny bird, very weak. I don't know, quail. Quail? Q-U-E-L-L or something like that. How do you pronounce? Quail. And the mother quail lay eggs and the tiny birds are coming out. And by the time the farmer, they are putting the cages in the paddy fields and the other fields, and the farmer harvested it. Now the mother safely put them under a new cloak after the harrowing of the land, told, don't go out because your wings are not strong enough, wait till I come back. So mother bird often going out to bring food. There was one tiny baby and little bit radical and feel even though mother is not there, what will happen if I climb up to the cloak and nice sun and I can see the world. So it go there and start dancing. And a bird catcher or eagle come and catch the newly born baby, it's very weak. And now like an arrow going to the sky up there and going there, while going that quail, the tiny bird is telling, no, it is utterly due to my mistake. Had I listened to my mother's instruction, it wouldn't happen. So the eagle is listening, the tiny quail is not regretting, it says it's my mistake. It is due to my mistake. Then the eagle is asking, what are you talking about? No, I am not finding fault with you, it's my mistake. Mother told me very clearly, and still this happened. Then the eagle, with pride, says, do you think even if you are at your mother's security place, you are escaped, you are secure from me? No. I know even if you are in this secured place, I can catch you. I have very sharp eyes. I give a chance. If you go and hide you, I will find you. So the Buddha says that ultimately the eagle release the young bird. And young bird come back and hiding inside before mother comes because it has already done a mistake. And again the mother come and goes, and imagine that little one again feel like going up to the clock and dancing. So not only your mind is naughty, even the tiny bird is like that. And while happening, it's very alert now, and the tiny bird heard the sound. When the eagle is like arrow-like happening, he was so alert, when that immediately he was prepared, and soon the bird happens, it just climbed down and hide inside the clog, mud. And by that time, the eagle has no chance to change the flight, come and hit upon the clog and dies off. So the Buddha says, the second time, the tiny quail is prepared, that is called prepared mind. That is what you call vigilance. That is what you call diligence. So don't worry to do mistakes. So that is the way clear comprehension is developing. Even the mind is wandering, daydreaming, don't take that responsibility because it's not something you do. But now you are prepared. So when and where you come to know, you can come back to your safe land. So oasis, your at-home situation, your pivotal point, your assembly ground, and the benchmark, and it is always waiting for you. Always waiting. Your breath, even you are worrying, breath is happening. Even if you are going to take a bath, breath is happening. Don't think while you are taking a bath, breath is not there. Don't think when you are listening, breath is not there. Don't think that you are daydreaming, breath is not there. So the clear comprehension is how much and how far you can see through this thinking. You can see through this pain. You can see through this sounds, distraction, and you see breath is waiting. And the way you understand your way back home is always open. That is the only point you understand the capacity of the human mind. Otherwise you always find the fault with the distraction, worrying, and ultimately all your interview reports is nothing but a complaint, nothing but a charge sheet. I can't meditate because there are flies. I can't meditate because there are sounds. I can't meditate because there are thoughts. So you list them, but you don't know how to cut through it. The moment you understand it, you see. Earlier I used to find fault and understand I'm a very weak meditator because so much of distraction. Each time distraction, mind is wandering. But one day, you know the art coming back, you understand, distractions are there. But still you can learn the art of not to worry. Then creativity happens. Then chances are there you to come back. The Buddha, in the Indriya Bhavana Sutta, that is Sutta number 152, he says, when someone is practicing in this way, not only just mere mindfulness, but diversified kind of mindfulness, radical kind of reflection, vigilant kind of observation, each and every mishap, you refine yourself. When it's happening, you see, my mind still, even though I am vigilant, even though I am with clear comprehension, even though I am radical in thinking, still mind is slipping, is slippery. And you understand it is not your mistake, it's a human mistake. This is the human mind. But if you are not well instructed, you personify it, telling it is my mistake. Then you suffer. Then you suffer lost. So now you are taking it as a challenge, and you are not promoting wandering mind. You are not promoting daydreaming. You are not promoting fantasizing. You are not promoting outside sounds. But whenever such a thing happens, you consider only how to recover. How is the resilience? How much I can make use the mindfulness and my primary object to find the way back home. When such a thing happens, you earlier, if you are not restrain your faculties, sense faculties, while meditating, whenever mind go back home or future or other thing, knowingly or unknowingly you entertain it. That is the point where you fertilize it. That's the point where you feed it. But now you are not entertaining it. Instead, you find, even though primary object is very neutral, it is no much of tasty. It is something boring. It is something neutral, but that is the safe land. The external thing happening, sounds and the thoughts, and they are very dramatic, very attractive, but you are vulnerable. So they are not to give a chance, not to entertain this distraction, knowingly how quickly you can come back to the primary object, according to the Pali words of the Buddha, etan santang etam panitang eddang upekha. Even though the sounds are more attractive and dramatic, even though your fantasizing, daydreaming is lucrative and carried you for a ride, even the other visual object is so dramatic and pulling you out, you safely bring it back to your pivotal ground. Bring it back to the assembly ground. Because assembly ground is always waiting. Usually when you are putting up an institute, we select assembly ground. It must be technically sound place and not usually undergoing floods or fire or any hazards. So that is how the assembly ground is assigned. So exactly the primary object is an assembly ground, pivotal point. Whenever mind is going out, whenever mishap happens, it is waiting. So that is how at the beginning we come to a center like this and air condition, no sounds, and we learn the assembly ground, we learn the primary object, we learn the pivotal point, we learn the benchmark and understand, and each and every one of you knows pivotal place, benchmark is boring. No one can say yes, no. So that is the secret. Now you have two things. One thing is very dramatic, unsafe, and carried you away from the trip. The assembly ground is boring, monotonous, uncertain, fearful. The senses are not happy to be with that boredom. So therefore now the sense pleasure or sense restraint, you consider whenever such a true thing happens, which one you are going to select, but now you have a preparedness, be prepared, the dramatic things, the colorful thing, eventful thing is always promoting desire. The boring one, the monotonous one, your primary object is giving you the safe haven, at home, situation, and more you practice, you can understand why wise people select the forest. Why wise people, they are happy to sit under a tree. Why they are happy to go to a solitude place, sunyagara. Instead, the people with dramatic life and sense pleasure and fertilizing desire go to the town, go to the capital cities, go to all the kind of thing, and there you can get all the kind of distractions. But I would recommend, even after good meditation, you must go to the mall and see what the kind of distraction they have set in, and not possible for a amateur or medium kind of yogi to maintain the integrity unless otherwise you go prepared. But that give you a good challenge, give you a good exercise, give chances for the radical reflection, still that is there because the defilements are not in the environment. That your selection, whether it is going for the dramatic thing with the liking and disliking, or come back to the neutral thing which is not provoking, the liking and disliking, it is almost neutral. Always these two options are there. It is not the omnipotent, omnipresent God selecting, but you get a chance because you have earlier developed your clear comprehension of the mindfulness and little bit of more sensitivity, or called emotional literacy or emotional intelligence. And now you find each and every moment very dramatic, where the sense pleasure is ready to entertain with dramatic and colorful and kind of thing, and already develop your posture, your body, or furtherance within the body, some tiny object you assign like breath, or left and the right leg. So it is waiting, always waiting. So when and where, I imagine one day you understand there is no second person defiling you, there are no external objects defiling you, your unruly mind, your undisciplined sense pleasure is the one taking, and ultimately if you are succumb to the situation, it is too late. So you have to understand each and every time when the mind given two options, very dramatic, colorful thing, and the boredom and monotonous thing, definitely it is selecting the colorful thing. To cite an example, Buddha says, the six senses, the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, and the body and the mind, they are like 6 wild elephants, animals. And each and every one tied to a rope, and all the ropes are tied together. And these animals, they have different habitats and different feeding system. So therefore, if one animal get a chance, it is pulling all the other 5 and taken to their habitat and their feeding ground. All the other has to suffer. The Buddha says, eye is like a snake. The ear is like a crocodile. And the nose is like a dog. And the tongue is like a jackal. And mind is like a monkey. There's another animal, I can't remember. So imagine if the snake is searching for food, it pull all the one to the anthill. Because our senses are reptilian. They are animalistic. They never consider that we have 6 senses. Whenever eye is going to take upper hand, it no chance, no consideration about the ear, nose, tongue, everything. Imagine when you are looking at something and completely absorbed with. At that time, all the sound waves happen, it never make a sense. Your ear behave like a deaf. And whatever the smell, whatever the taste, whatever the bodily contact, you don't feel it. Because I took the chance, it is called dominancy, it dominates everything. So if you can keep a note, bookkeeping within a day, you see there's no agenda. Everyone is carried away by the sense pleasure due to lack of sensitivity, lack of restraint if you're in your faculty. At the end is utterly desperate, utterly irritating, and whatever you think in the morning never works at the end of the day. Lucky enough, if you are not mindful, you don't have bookkeeping. You don't know. The moment you start to be mindful, you are the most irritated person. Because you see, you understand what the kind of situation, it is utterly reptilian, they call, like animal. So when and where you introduce little bit of the moral restraint in terms of a sense restraining of your faculties, you see, you can only do under a limited situation, and other time you can understand unrestrained faculties, but don't worry about. Many people are getting highly worried, specifically if they are not balancing mentally. While meditating, many people lose mental balance. Because understand what the kind of thing, who is the ruler, whose agenda from morning to evening. Even with moral restraint, even with 8 precepts, even with all our determination, when you imagine, when you determine to walk from here to the other end, how many steps you can walk? Even with your determination, imagine before you learn, before you came to know about mindfulness. Imagine when you are at a carnival or in a mall, how many steps you can do? Well, it is not relevant. When you try to do only, you understand you are unborn baby-like. So therefore, whenever the second aspect, that is the sense restraining the senses, 6 senses, you utterly get bankrupt. So you never write that kind of thing in your interview report. You wish to know, wish to report, I started from here, I managed to be mindful to the last end, and if it is so, you will be writing interview reports in the midnight. You're so happy, as it never happens. It never happens. Even the very advanced yogis says, while walking in the third step or fourth step, mind went off. It was a sound. And I know it was a sound. I managed to come back to the breath, left and right. And again I started 2-3 steps. And again it went with the visual objects or image, mental image. So you can somewhat give an account as far as the bookkeeping is concerned. That no one will be happy. This is a part and parcel of the first truth of suffering. And it is more more aggravated for mindful people. Other people, they don't know, they don't care. Imagine before we learn, before we come to know the mindfulness, it is not something to be worried. But when you try to be mindful, first thing you feel is irritation. You feel irritated. And second thing, you find fault with yourself, self-accusation. And the third aspect is you find fault with others because others are not helping me mindfulness, they are always distracting me. So therefore, when you go back home, you will be fighting with all the family members. Because that when I was at the Jhana Grove, everyone prepared food and only for going along the line and finish. But at home you have to wash the utensil and cook the food, and after that everyone throw everywhere and cook it, everything washing. You find all the people are messy. You are also messy. I am a Samaritan, I am a well-being person, I am well-managed, but others are not. So you find a lot of mistakes with others. And later, many of you would think, I will put up a meditation center, perfect. No flies, no mosquitoes, and no sounds, no distraction. So you are thinking of the pedantic, everything is perfect. So when you come to here, you find that they would have done it in a proper way. This center is not so perfect. And you are imagining a perfect one because you think mindfulness possible only if the ground is flat. In Sinhala we call Natanda Beri Poravadai. I am a very good dancer, but I can't dance because ground is not flat. So when and where you develop mindfulness, these 4 things, irritation, self-accusation, fault-finding with others and pedantic nature, that is a clear indication of your interview report. Not a single one escaped. So I used to tell Venerable Dhammika when I go there, but I had a very, very advantageous situation. He told, practice without letting others know. So therefore I have not to complain because I behave like a madman. Just a normal citizen John. I am not a meditator, I am not so and so, no. So therefore whatever the people doing, I don't care. So but still I feel I am more accusing myself. At was the robust young age, how often I break rules. How often I fall prey to the whatever seeing and hearing. I thank Venerable Dhammika because I can directly tell him he's a male, same age, and he's open. And he says, even though you are complaining now, earlier you had the same event, you are not complaining. Now after starting mindfulness, you are complaining it. Don't complain. They are fact of life. It's a feasibility study. You now only you know who you are. Otherwise you are just showing in front of the society. It's a role play. Now at least in front of me you are just telling, I can't walk even few steps. Mind is wandering. Oh, what is wrong? Is it wrong that you know it? No. That means you are hating knowledge. This is under your very nose knowledge. So when and where the you understand the clear comprehension, and it is leading to the emotional literacy or social intelligence. You understand the broadening or diversification of the mindfulness happen. Many consider it as a weakening of your mindfulness. You fail to report it. You may understand while you are observing the breath, you can feel another pain in your leg and pain in the back. So you don't know what to do, because now in the same body, two places giving two signals. So it's an endowment because of your sensitivity. While you still being the breath being your primary object, you feel here and there the wind movements, sounds and pains. Don't consider it as a complaint. Don't consider it as a charge sheet. Just see amidst of all the kinds of things, can still you be mindful on the breath? Just like tightrope walking. And there are all the distractions happening is a clear guidance to you. You are more vigilant now. You are more diligent. You don't hate under the nose experience of external sounds, pains, thoughts. And meanwhile you try how much I can maintain my integrity and how can advance further. And when and where such a thing happen, all the distractions are blessings in disguise. But not all, of course. The medium and lighter kind of distractions, they are blessings. And the day you know how to report it, you become the best writer, classic writer on the earth. Because you are talking something exactly under your nose. No theoretical knowledge, no anticipation, no reaction, you just report. So you become another newly born baby or beginner's mind, and each and every time I report things as it is, you find it sharpening yourself. Many things, not only the mindfulness, not only the clear comprehension, your communication and the trust, the other person who is listening. And you understand others' mind. I am writing, he is listening, so I must be careful to present it in a sequential order, so your writing will be very systematic. In Toronto, when we promote young children to do a little bit of walking and ask them, what is your feeling, what is your experience, what did you feel? And they are amazed to hear the elders are asking child what is their feeling. Because in the school what is happening is elders are pouring into the child's mind. Never ask their impression. Never ask their experience. So when someone is going and asking, oh darling, when you are walking, did you manage to walk? Yes. How many steps? Maybe 2, 3. Can you still feel the left leg and right leg? I don't know. Can you just check the feeling of the left leg and the right leg is same or different in the next day? And they will come and let you know. And can you write it? Then the class teacher can understand this child, the presentation is very sharp. Rather than other people, those who have not attended mindful school. So likewise the blooming of the child, not only the mindfulness, but the presentation, the communication, the direct experience, they are the basic human qualities, not the geography, physics and mathematics and everything. They are utterly artificial. They are utterly second-hand. They are rotten. Utterly rotten. If you follow physics itself, what we learn in the classroom and what they are talking today, completely disproved. What the new Isaac Newton told is no more. Because Einstein became the big brother. Now Einstein also slowly becoming outdated. But under the nose experience, it's very sharp. So therefore, the day you understand my selection of the dramatic thing and colorful thing, or instead selecting the safety place, pivotal point, benchmark, always an open challenge, and at the beginning, painfully slow. Utterly weak. Never mind. Because this is the only method we have, trial and error method. But even then the Buddha is so sharp. He says even if we are advancing along this moral shame and the moral fear, or restraining your sense faculties, you have to tell someone. Otherwise you will never be progressing. Even though it is happening you, or even if it is not happening you, please communicate with someone. Please communicate with the fellow meditators or a senior one, and then only your knowledge will be galvanized. Then only your knowledge will be reinforced, because you must know, you must appreciate it, otherwise naturally mind is going to the places where higher defilements are there. More attractive things, more colorful things. The one of the beasts, either snake or crocodile, or the dog, or the monkey, or the jackal, pulling you. Do you know that when the eye is pulling you and taken, you become a seer, is it always for your well-being? No. It's just indulgence, just pleasure principle. So therefore we can't find fault with others. Our very mind also, if you give a range or array of objects, visual objects, sounds, smell, taste, and the tactile sensation and thoughts, whatever may be more defiled, mind is naturally go to that area. That very understanding is utterly discouraging. That is the main message of the Buddha. Buddha says, main thing is not to worry. At least you now know. First you have to diagnose your disease, then only you can find medicine. You don't rush according to your symptoms. You have to go to the root cause and understand it is not your mistake, that is the human mind. And understanding and diagnosing and this kind of a feasibility study, no one can do it for you. Even if you are a very, very efficient mother, you can't pass that to your child. Even your child is very efficient, mindful children, they can't pass it to the mother. You have to put yourself. So that is how it is under your very nose. So sooner the better. So therefore, whenever you come to the sphere of restraint of faculties, sense faculties, you understand that is the deepest level of civilization. We can say this is a Buddhist culture. Not talking about the making constitution and whole country take under this regulation and that regulation, or with the help of police, or with the help of army, or with the help of gunshot to control people. This is beastly. This is just mercenary. Those who have not trained themselves, therefore their restraining of senses, they are the bloody fellows thinking about controlling others. But here start with your own. And the only thing is, I am reiterating, only thing is you feel it is boring. It is self-critical. But imagine if you have some fellow beings, they are also practicing the same. And they are also sharing with us very generously. Then we feel that when we are going as a team, as a group, we have a kind of a momentum. This is when the cyclists are going for marathon, they go as clusters. When the cluster is going, the whole eddy current is helpful. When the birds are flying, they are making arrowhead formation and fly. So they are the air current or kind of a little cyclone they make, helpful for the fellow members to follow suit. And they are changing the leader once in a way. When the fish, when birds, everything, when they go as a cluster, they have security, they are the fast to grow. So therefore when the meditators also, like-minded people, meditate themselves individually and share each other and generously just explain what is happening. But if you are full with your theory understanding, full with it must happen, this must happen, these are becoming very, very distracting blockages. So you have to behave like a beginners. No theory understanding necessary. Of course, theory understanding is necessary to listen to this kind of thing. And then your knowledge and your common sense is quite enough. I am talking with my first-hand experience because we are teaching this to Muslim girls. And they are absorbing the message so quickly and put into practice. And they say, if anyone need any lecture regarding mindfulness, please call me, I can give you. Because within short period, I got the message, I know how to communicate. So one girl, she says, I am learning in a Buddhist school. I am in the committee of the Buddhist society. I am the person conducting such mindful classes to other Buddhists. I am Muslim. You won't believe. Because their mind is very fresh. It is not corrupted with theory understanding and that knowledge, this knowledge. So very easy, just like a blotting paper. They suck the ink. So younger generation, much better, but the thing is, if the older generation is not happy to send their children, I have to start with the old crock. It's an early part of my campaign. The when and where I get the access to the children, mind your own business. I know how to hit you people. But when the child comes to know the mindfulness, at home they teach parents. At the classroom they teach teacher. They are with the first-hand experience. So therefore, even if you are an elderly person, the very first day, you comes to know how quickly you can come back at home from the unmindfulness to the mindfulness, bewildered mind to the mindful mind. You feel like sharing with that mind. You feel like it is such an encouraging thing, such an endowment. Without worrying, if you think about the way back home, generally it is not individual experience, a human experience. It's ultimate, it becomes contagious. If you are living with that kind of a people, it's a contagious disease. So therefore, whenever such a thing happens, we must have a forum just to discuss about them, just to share that kind of a thing. And we find special kind of brotherhood, special kind of a sisterhood, more than our blood-related relatives, because we are in depth, we are sharing. And unlucky enough for the last few centuries, that message was not clear enough. It was hidden. And due to these bad consequences of this technology, now the value of mindfulness is coming slowly into the mainstream. Not only in the Asiatic countries where the teaching of the Buddha were prevailing, but even from the West. So they understand it. When they are understanding mindfulness, they try to give, each and everyone is qualified for mindfulness, any age, any situation, and the West found it is much productive and message is more attractive as far as it is therapeutic. The whole Western mindfulness it's a therapeutic. Mindfulness-based stress reduction program. Mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. Otherwise, it will never go into Western situation. So John Kabat-Zinn and others, they have done a great breakthrough now. Now, after number of years, number of decades, they change from the therapeutic level or healing level to the preventive state. And Daniel Goleman says, we slowly now reaching emotional literacy. We are slowly reaching social literacy, social intelligence. So that means now this is coming backward and go back to the source. Therapeutic mindfulness now is changing to the preventive kind of thing. in the outset I can say, preventive thing is a commodity, easily you can sell. But therapeutic one, very difficult. Very difficult because they don't feel the necessity unless otherwise they get a trauma. Unless otherwise they get a frustration or tension. So now we are in a lucky transitional age from the therapeutic or healing to it is slowly changing into the preventive part. So therefore, when you are practicing, whether it is therapeutic or preventive, no problem, but it must evolve. Mindfulness must evolve, not to just stop at the dealing with the symptoms, but to go deep into the root. That is how it happens. First, you become sensitive to the moral shame and the moral fear. And then when it is advancing, it is going slowly into a restraint of your sense faculties. And the Buddha says, when such a thing happens, when these two basic foundations happen, then only then you will be a moral person. Then only you will be ethically responsible, otherwise you may be just holding precepts, but it's just a painting outside only. There is no internal real change or changing of the personality, changing of your liking and disliking, changing of your habits, changing of your traits. It can happen, but in a very slow but steady way. But still, it's painfully slow. So at the beginning you have to be very patient. Just develop mindfulness. Just develop mindfulness. We call bare attention. And while it is happening only, all the other necessary things, sometimes it is naturally happening, but sometimes you have to catalyze it. The first and foremost thing you have to add is condiment is clear comprehension. Whenever mindfulness is going hand in hand with the clear comprehension, you can feel your sensitivity, you can feel your diligence, you can feel your vigilance increases. And if you are not listening to Dhamma, if you are not clear enough, all the sensitivities you consider as a distraction. You may read it in a wrong way. So that's why the discussion is necessary. In the discussion, you have to put them in the proper shape and then understand whenever you are mindful, your tiny thing in your body become amplified. You don't consider them as distraction. See, amidst of all the amplified signals, can you simply see through them and go back to the primary object? And that change, that reflection, that radical reflection, Venerable Katukurunde Jnanananda used to say, radical reflection. Not in a traditional way, radically you reflect each and every sensitivity, every signal is a kind of a challenge, and you must know how to see through it and to familiarize with your primary object, and this is how it is happening. So I think enough for the day, and tomorrow we are going to further along this particular sutta with this already prepared background. Thank you very much for listening.